Welcome to Quick Bio Bits, where we bring you the remarkable lives of extraordinary individuals. Today, we're delving into the fascinating story of William James Sidis, a child prodigy whose intellect and achievements continue to captivate and perplex us to this day. Born on April 1, 1898 in New York City, William Sidis was the product of an ambitious experiment in child rearing conducted by his parents, Boris and Sarah Sidis. Both highly educated immigrants from Ukraine, Boris and Sarah were determined to nurture a genius, and they believed they had the formula to do so. Boris Sidis, a renowned psychologist and psychiatrist, was convinced that intelligence could be cultivated from an incredibly young age. He developed a unique educational approach that he called Philistine, which emphasized intensive study and intellectual engagement over traditional play. Sarah, a medical doctor, fully supported her husband's methods and played an equally crucial role in William's upbringing. From the moment William was born, his parents immersed him in an environment designed to stimulate his cognitive development. They hung alphabet cards around his crib and began teaching him to read before he could even walk. By the age of 18 months, William was reading the New York Times. At 3, he was typing letters on a typewriter, and by 4, he had taught himself Latin. The Sidis household was a veritable laboratory of learning. Boris would engage young William in debates on complex subjects, challenging his reasoning skills and expanding his knowledge base. Sarah, for her part, invested heavily in educational resources, spending considerable sums on books, maps, and other learning materials to feed her son's voracious appetite for knowledge. As William grew, his intellectual prowess became increasingly apparent. At the age of 6, he could speak 8 languages fluently: English, Latin, Greek, Russian, French, German, Hebrew, and Turkish. By 7, he had written 4 books, including a treatise on anatomy. His parents' methods seemed to be bearing fruit, and William was quickly becoming the genius they had set out to create. However, this intensive educational regimen came at a cost. While William's intellect flourished, his social development lagged behind. He spent little time with children his own age, instead engaging primarily with adults in intellectual pursuits. This isolation would have profound implications for his later life. At the age of 9, William applied to Harvard University. Despite his extraordinary qualifications, the university initially rejected him, citing his youth. However, after 2 years of negotiations and debates about child prodigies in higher education, Harvard finally relented. In 1909, at the age of 11, William Sidis became the youngest person ever to enroll at Harvard University. His time at Harvard was nothing short of remarkable. He gave a lecture to the Harvard Mathematical Club on 4-dimensional bodies, a topic so advanced that most of the professors in attendance struggled to follow it. The media latched onto the story of the boy genius, and William found himself thrust into the spotlight, a position he found deeply uncomfortable. Despite the pressure and attention, William excelled academically. He graduated cum laude from Harvard in 1914, at the age of 16. However, the strain of his accelerated education and the constant public scrutiny began to take its toll. William retreated from public life, taking a teaching position at Rice University in Houston, Texas. But even this proved too much for the young prodigy. After less than a year, William left his teaching post and returned to Harvard to pursue graduate studies in law. However, his heart wasn't in it. He became increasingly disillusioned with formal education and began to develop strong political views, leaning towards socialism and pacifism. In 1919, William was arrested for participating in a socialist May Day parade that turned violent. The arrest made headlines, and once again, the former child prodigy found himself in the public eye. The media portrayed him as a fallen genius, a narrative that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Following his arrest, William withdrew even further from society. He took on a series of menial jobs, working as a clerk and a translator. He seemed determined to live a quiet, anonymous life, far removed from the expectations and pressures of his childhood. Despite his retreat from public life, William's intellect remained sharp. He continued to write and publish, albeit under pseudonyms. In 1925, he published a book on American history titled The Tribes and the States, which some scholars now consider a prescient work on Native American rights. He also wrote extensively on cosmology, developing his own theory about the origin and fate of the universe, which he called the animate and the inanimate. William's life took another turn in 1937 when a reporter from The New Yorker tracked him down for a profile. The resulting article, titled April Fool, painted a pitiful picture of a former prodigy reduced to a reclusive existence in a shabby boarding house. William was deeply hurt by the portrayal and sued the magazine for invasion of privacy. Although he won a small settlement, the damage to his reputation was done. In the years that followed, William continued to live a quiet life, working various clerical jobs and pursuing his intellectual interests in private. He maintained a vast collection of streetcar transfer tickets, wrote prolifically on a wide range of subjects, and continued to expand his linguistic abilities, reportedly mastering over 40 languages. William James Sidis passed away on July 17, 1944, at the age of 46. His death was largely unremarked upon, a stark contrast to the media frenzy that had surrounded his early life. It wasn't until years later that scholars began to reassess his life and contributions, recognizing that his retreat from public life didn't equate to a decline in his intellectual abilities. In retrospect, William Sidis's story raises profound questions about the nature of intelligence, the pressures of early fame, and the potential consequences of intensive early education. His parents' experiment in creating a genius was, in many ways, successful. William's intellectual achievements were undeniably extraordinary. However, the emotional and social toll of this upbringing was equally significant. Boris and Sarah Sidis's methods, while extreme, were rooted in their genuine belief in the malleability of human intelligence. Boris, drawing on his background in psychology, theorized that early and intensive intellectual stimulation could dramatically enhance cognitive development. He believed that the first few years of life were crucial for brain development, and that by providing the right environment and stimuli, he could nurture extraordinary intellectual capabilities. Sarah's role in this experiment was equally important. As a medical doctor, she brought her own scientific rigor to William's upbringing. She meticulously documented his progress, keeping detailed records of his developmental milestones. Her dedication to William's education was unwavering, often spending hours each day engaged in educational activities with her son. The Sidis household was a veritable intellectual playground. Every moment was seen as an opportunity for learning. Dinner conversations revolved around complex topics in science, philosophy, and current events. Even leisure activities were educational. Games were designed to teach mathematical concepts or historical facts. This intensive approach yielded remarkable results. By the time William entered Harvard, he had already mastered higher mathematics, could speak numerous languages, and had a depth of knowledge in various scientific fields that surpassed many adults. His lecture on four-dimensional bodies to the Harvard Mathematical Club wasn't just a parlor trick. It represented genuine, advanced understanding of complex mathematical concepts. However, the flip side of this intensive education became increasingly apparent as William grew older. While his intellectual development was extraordinary, his emotional and social development lagged significantly. He struggled to form meaningful relationships with peers, often finding it difficult to relate to people his own age. The constant pressure to perform and the relentless public scrutiny took a heavy toll on his mental health. William's later life choices, his retreat from academia, his pursuit of menial jobs, his desire for anonymity, can be seen as a reaction to the intense pressure and expectations of his early years. In many ways, he seemed to be running from the identity that had been constructed for him as a child prodigy. Yet, it would be a mistake to view William's later life solely through the lens of unfulfilled potential. While he may have withdrawn from public intellectual life, he continued to pursue knowledge and develop his ideas in private. His writings on history, politics, and cosmology, though largely unpublished during his lifetime, reveal a mind that remained active and engaged. William's linguistic abilities, in particular, continued to expand throughout his life. His mastery of over 40 languages is a testament to his ongoing intellectual curiosity and capacity for learning. This achievement alone would be considered extraordinary for any individual, let alone someone who was supposedly past his intellectual prime. The tragedy of William Sidis's life lies not in wasted potential, but in the immense pressure placed upon him from such a young age. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the potential dangers of pushing children too hard, too fast. It raises important questions about the balance between nurturing intellectual gifts and allowing for normal social and emotional development. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in William Sidis's life and work. Scholars have begun to reassess his contributions, particularly in fields like Native American history and cosmology. His book, The Tribes and the States, long overlooked, is now recognized as an important early work advocating for Native American rights and offering a unique perspective on American history. Similarly, his work on cosmology, while largely ignored during his lifetime, contains ideas that some modern physicists find intriguing. His theory about the reversibility of time and the cyclical nature of the universe outlined in The Animate and the Inanimate bears some similarities to more recent concepts in theoretical physics. William Sidis's life raises profound questions about the nature of intelligence and the responsibilities we have towards gifted individuals. Was he a tragic figure, burned out by the pressure of early fame? Or was he simply a man who chose to live life on his own terms, pursuing knowledge for its own sake rather than for public acclaim? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. William Sidis was undoubtedly a person of extraordinary intellect, shaped by an unprecedented educational experiment. His early achievements were remarkable, and his continued intellectual pursuits throughout his life, though less public, were no less impressive. At the same time, his story serves as a reminder of the importance of balanced development. Intelligence alone is not enough for a fulfilling life. Emotional well-being, social connections, and the freedom to choose one's own path are equally crucial. As we reflect on the life of William James Sidis, we're left with a complex legacy. He was a prodigy whose early promise seemed limitless, a recluse who sought anonymity, and a thinker whose ideas continue to intrigue us decades after his death. His story challenges our notions of success and failure, genius and normalcy, and the very nature of human potential. In the end, perhaps the most valuable lesson we can draw from William Sidis's life is the importance of allowing individuals, no matter how gifted, the space to define success on their own terms. Genius, after all, comes in many forms, and a life lived in pursuit of knowledge and understanding, whether in the public eye or in private contemplation, is a life of value. William James Sidis may not have lived up to the grand expectations set for him in his youth, but his life and legacy continue to fascinate and educate us. He remains a symbol of extraordinary potential, a cautionary tale about the pressures of early fame, and a reminder of the complex nature of human intelligence and development. In studying his life, we gain insights not just into the nature of genius, but into the fundamental questions of what it means to live a fulfilling and meaningful life.